Hello, everyone. Right now we're talking about the first presidency within the United States of America. In 1788, the nation came together to elect the first president of the United States, now that the Constitution had been adopted. The ballots were counted, and each state, remember, presidents are elected by an electoral college, not by each individual person, and all 13 states, all of them chose George Washington to be president. John Adams had the second most electoral votes, so he was elected vice president. Now, Washington faced challenges that no other president would ever have to face. How do you exactly be a president? Now, we have an idea of this in 2014 because we've been doing it for over 200 years, but back then, back in the 1780s and 1790s, this was extremely new. It was also a relatively new area for Congress, whose members passed some very important laws in setting up the new nation. One such law was the Judiciary Act, because there was a judicial branch listed in the Constitution, but there was no exact plan of how to carry out and live out the judicial branch of the Constitution. So Congress passed a Judiciary Act, which established the Supreme Court and lower courts beneath it. The nation now had a specific way in which laws would be tested to determine whether or not they were constitutional. That was the first major thing in Washington's presidency. Another very important act was in creating the first cabinet. Washington nominated the best and the brightest without really worrying about how all these pieces would fit together. He nominated Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, as Secretary of State, and Alexander Hamilton as the Secretary of Treasury. What he did not realize was that these two people saw the future of the country very differently from one another. Hamilton believed that the nation needed a strong central government. He believed that the central government needed to adopt all of the states' national debts into one national debt, which would then give the nation credit, which would help the economy. Hamilton believed in a strong national bank to help the economy as well. He believed that this was necessary in order to create a nation full of manufacturers, people who would create factories, people who would make things, people who would sell things. Workers would come in cities and work. That's the future that Hamilton envisioned. Now, all these ideas were not really stated in the Constitution. So he favored a loose interpretation of the Constitution, giving the government implied powers. Jefferson, however, was completely opposed to Hamilton's ideas. He believed that America would someday be a nation of farmers, and he opposed adopting a national bank or a strong central government. Jefferson believed in a strict interpretation of the Constitution, which set clear limits on the power of the federal government. This set the nation in an impasse. What would the nation do? How would this conflict be resolved? Well, it was resolved one night when Hamilton and Jefferson were at dinner together, and Jefferson agreed to Hamilton's ideas on one condition. The new capital would be in a swampy area in Virginia, and this swampy area, would be named Washington. Jefferson believed that having a southern capital would help ensure southern interests in the country. Now, would this end the conflict between the two? Or would this be a mere band-aid over a problem with more serious effects? That is a question we will investigate later in this unit. In the meantime, have a very good evening, and I will see you tomorrow.